The last time my mother called me her daughter, she was asking for money. The next time people talked about me, they called me missing. But I wasn't missing. I was 7 hours away, sitting in a small apartment with a newborn baby in my arms, trying to figure out how to survive without the family I had spent years supporting. My name is Emma. And this is how my family turned my decision to protect myself into a story about how I had abandoned them. It started on the night I graduated from college. I was 24. I had just earned my nursing degree after years of loans, late-night studying, and exhausting shifts at a diner. My mother, Diane, had prepared a small dinner. My father, Robert, gave a short blessing. My younger brother, Lucas, ate most of the cake. For those few hours, I felt proud. I thought my family was proud of me, too. Then the plates were cleared. My mother pushed a small envelope across the table. I thought it was a graduation gift. It wasn't. Inside was a handwritten list of bills: mortgage, electricity, car payment, medical expenses. I looked at my mother. She smiled and said, "You have a good job now, Emma. We can finally breathe." I didn't understand what she meant, so I asked, "Mom, what is this?" She looked surprised. "It's just what the family needs right now." Just. That word stayed with me, because from that night forward, there was always something the family needed. At first, I paid one bill, then another. Then I started sending money every month. When my father's car needed repairs, I paid. When Lucas needed money for school, I helped. When my parents were behind on their mortgage, I covered the payment. Every time, my mother said the same thing: "We'll pay you back." They never did. But I kept telling myself it didn't matter. They were my family. And I believed family was supposed to help each other. Then I met Evan. He was the first person who noticed how tired I was. Not my salary, not what I could afford. Me. One evening, he looked at my phone while another message from my mother appeared. "Can you send $600 tonight?" Evan looked at me. "Do you ever get to keep your own money?" I laughed. But I didn't answer. Because deep down, I already knew. I was becoming the person everyone called when they needed something, and the person nobody called when they simply wanted to know if I was okay. Then Evan proposed. We started planning a future. A small house, a quiet life, maybe children. For the first time, I began saving money for myself. My mother noticed. And one evening, she asked, "How much have you saved?" I refused to answer. Her expression changed immediately. "You're becoming selfish." I went silent. That night, I stared at my bank account for almost an hour. And for the first time, I asked myself a question I had been afraid to ask for years. What if helping my family was destroying my own future? I didn't know it yet, but that question was about to change everything. 3 months after I started saving for my own future, everything changed. I was at the hospital when Evan called. His voice sounded different. "Emma, can you come home?" I knew something was wrong. When I reached the apartment, he was standing outside the door. He didn't say anything. He just hugged me. And that's when I saw the tears in his eyes. Evan had been in a construction accident. He was gone. Just like that, the future we had been planning disappeared. The house, the wedding, the children we had talked about, everything. I stopped answering calls. I stopped going out. I barely slept. And then, a few weeks later, I discovered something that made the grief even harder to carry. I was pregnant. I sat on the bathroom floor staring at the test. 2 lines. I put my hand over my mouth. Evan was gone, but a part of him was still with me. For the first time since the accident, I had something to protect. So I went back to work. I saved every dollar I could. I stopped spending money on things I didn't need. And I began preparing for my baby. But my family didn't know. I wasn't ready to tell them. I knew exactly what would happen. My mother would worry about money. Lucas would ask what I could still afford to send. And somehow my pregnancy would become another family problem. Then my doctor gave me another reason to worry. My blood pressure was dangerously high. He told me I had to reduce stress. No long arguments. No unnecessary pressure. And, most importantly, I needed to keep my money for my own medical care and my baby. That meant I had to finally do something I had been afraid of for years. I had to say no. I called my mother. She answered immediately. "Emma, can you send $900? Your father's car needs repairs." I closed my eyes. This was the moment. I could tell her about Evan. I could tell her I was pregnant. I could tell her about my health. But instead, I said the one thing I had never said before. "Mom, I can't send money anymore." Silence. For several seconds, I heard nothing. Then her voice became cold. "What do you mean?" "I mean I need to keep my money for myself and the baby." She didn't ask about the baby. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask how I was coping after Evan's death. Instead, she said, "After everything we've done for you?" My hand started shaking. "Mom, I have to take care of myself now." Her response came immediately. "Then I guess we know what kind of daughter you've become." The call ended. I stared at my phone. I wanted to call her back. I wanted to explain everything, but my doctor's warning came back to me. Reduce stress. Protect yourself. Protect the baby. So I didn't call. The next morning, I packed 2 suitcases. I rented a small apartment in another city, 7 hours away. I didn't tell my family where I was going, not because I wanted revenge, because I needed somewhere they couldn't reach me with another bill. My daughter, Lily, was born several months later. She was tiny, healthy, and when I held her for the first time, I made a promise. She would never grow up believing that love meant sacrificing everything you had. We built a quiet life together. Daycare, work, pancakes on Saturday mornings, little trips to the library. Eventually, I bought a small house. I painted the front door blue. For the first time in my life, I had a place where I could breathe. I thought the hardest part was over. I was wrong, because while I was building a new life, my mother was building a completely different story about why I had left, and I wouldn't discover that story until 4 years later. For 4 years, I thought staying away from my family meant the story was over. I was wrong, because while I was raising Lily, working long shifts, and trying to build a peaceful life, my family was telling people that I had abandoned them. I didn't know. Not at first. I was 7 hours away. I had no reason to check their social media. I didn't attend family gatherings. I didn't call on holidays. And honestly, I didn't want to know what they were saying. Then one Saturday morning, my phone started filling with strange messages. An old college friend wrote, "Emma, are you okay?" I replied, "Of course. Why?" She didn't answer immediately. Then she sent me a screenshot. It was a public post written by my mother's sister, Marissa. It said, "Please keep our family in your prayers. Some children forget the people who sacrificed everything for them." There was no name, but everyone knew who she meant. Me. I stared at the screen. Then another message arrived. This one came from someone I hadn't spoken to since high school. "I hope you find your way home someday." I felt my stomach drop. Find my way home? I hadn't been lost. I had chosen to leave. There was a difference. I called my mother. She didn't answer. I called my father. Nothing. Then I called Marissa. She picked up. "Emma?" Her voice sounded nervous. I asked her directly, "What have you been telling people?" Silence. Then she said, "Your mother is worried about you." "That's not what I asked." Another pause. Finally, she whispered, "She says you disappeared." I couldn't believe it. Disappeared? Yes. I laughed once. Not because it was funny, because I didn't know what else to do. "She knows exactly where I am." Marissa didn't respond. Then I realized something. My mother hadn't technically lied. She had simply never told anyone the reason I left. She had never mentioned the money. She had never mentioned the phone call. She had never mentioned that I was pregnant. She had never mentioned that I was grieving Evan. She had simply allowed people to believe I had walked away from my family for no reason. And that was enough, because people fill silence with their own stories. By the following week, relatives were messaging me. Some were angry, some were sympathetic, some wanted me to apologize. One even wrote, "Your mother deserves better." I almost threw my phone across the room. Then something happened that changed everything. My grandmother, Evelyn, called me. She was the one person in the family I had always trusted. Her voice was weak. "Emma, I need to ask you something." "What? Did you really abandon your family?" I closed my eyes. "No, Grandma." I told her everything. The money, the pressure, Evan, the pregnancy, the phone call, the reason I left. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was silent for several seconds. Then she said, "I knew it." I froze. "Knew what?" "Your mother has been hiding something." My heart started beating faster. "What do you mean?" Grandma took a breath. "Your father has been sick for a long time." I sat down. "What? He never wanted you to know." "Why? I don't know all of it." Then her voice became even quieter. "But there is something else." "What?" She said, "Your mother has been asking questions about where you live." I looked toward Lily's bedroom. My blood ran cold. "Why?" "I don't know." Then Grandma said the words that made me realize my peaceful life might not be as safe as I thought. Emma, I think your mother is coming to find you. 3 days after my grandmother's call, someone knocked on my door. It was 7:18 in the evening. Lily was sitting on the living room floor, coloring a picture of our house. I was making dinner when I heard the knock. I looked through the window, and my heart stopped. My mother was standing outside. She was holding an old photograph. For 4 years, I had imagined this moment, but I had never imagined feeling so calm. I opened the door. She looked at me. Then she looked at Lily, her eyes filled with tears. "She's beautiful," she whispered. I didn't move. "You found me." My mother nodded. "I should have come years ago." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "Why are you here?" She looked down at the photograph in her hands. "Because your grandmother told me the truth." I frowned. "What truth?" My mother took a shaky breath. "Your father has been sick for years. I already knew. But that's not why I came." She handed me the photograph. It was a picture of Evan. My mother's voice broke. "I didn't know he was gone until last year." I stared at her. "You never asked." She started crying. "I know." For the first time, she didn't defend herself. She didn't mention the money. She didn't say I was selfish. She simply stood there and admitted what she had done. "I was angry when you stopped helping us," she said. "I thought you had chosen your new life over your family." I looked at her. I was pregnant. She closed her eyes. "I know now. I had just lost Evan. I know. My doctor told me stress could put my health at risk. I know." I shook my head. "You knew none of that when you called me selfish." She looked down. "No, I didn't." Then she said something I never expected, but I should have asked. That sentence broke something inside me. Not because it fixed everything, it didn't, but because it was the first honest thing my mother had said in years. She told me my father had been trying to contact me. She told me he had asked about Lily. She told me Grandma had finally confronted her about the story she had been telling everyone. And then she admitted the hardest part. I was embarrassed. About what? That my daughter had to leave me to become happy. I had no answer. My mother wiped her tears. "I told people you disappeared because saying you left because of me was too painful." I looked back at the house, at Lily, at the blue door. Then I said, "You didn't lose me, Mom." She looked up. "You pushed me away." She nodded slowly. "I know." For a few seconds, we stood there in silence. Then I opened the door. Lily looked up. "Mommy, who is that?" I looked at my mother, then at my daughter. "This is your grandmother." My mother covered her mouth. She started crying again. But this time, the tears were different. There was no audience, no family gathering, no story to control, just a grandmother meeting her granddaughter. I didn't promise my mother that everything would go back to normal. I didn't forgive her overnight, and I didn't start sending money again. Instead, I gave her one simple choice. "If you want to be part of our lives, you have to be honest." She nodded, and for the first time, I believed she might actually mean it. That night, after she left, Lily fell asleep beside me. I stood at the blue door for a long time. 4 years ago, I thought walking away meant I had lost my family. Now I understood something completely different. Sometimes walking away isn't the end of a family. Sometimes it's the only way to find out who truly loves you. I looked at my daughter and smiled. I didn't know what the future would bring, but I knew one thing. I would never again teach my child that love means losing yourself. If this story touched you, tell me in the comments. Would you forgive your family after they told everyone a different version of your story? And if you enjoyed this emotional story, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Unexpected Life Stories for more powerful stories about family, betrayal, secrets, and second chances. Because sometimes the person who walks away isn't the one who abandoned the family. Sometimes they're the one who finally chose to save themselves.